Some of you may be familiar with Malcolm Gladwell, who describes in a lot of his work the transformational impact of the internet. He calls it a speeding up of the feedback loop around error. And since I was afraid I wouldn't have enough material, I called him yesterday and asked him for a story. And Malcolm said that his favorite story as it relates to healthcare is kind of a bizarre one. He said in the 1980s, a psychologist had done work on how long it took, and he's written a bit about this, to master something cognitively complex. And what they looked at as an example of this was chess, which has been around for several thousand years, is cognitively complex in many, many ways. And what they found is you couldn't master chess without playing less than 10,000 hours, roughly 10 years. There was no grandmaster in history they could find out who hadn't played for at least 10 years, for thousands of years. Well, it's no longer true. People routinely become grandmasters now in 5 years, after 5,000 hours. Why is that? Why did several thousand years of behavior change? Well, Malcolm believes it's because of the speeding up of the feedback loop around error. As he describes it, you're online playing chess now, you get to play the best players, often in front of chess forums that immediately criticize all your moves. You learn your errors instantaneously. I'm not a chess player, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. You learn your mistakes instantly, and you play the best early. And so here's an activity that has not gotten any easier, but has gotten easier to master because of the feedback loop around the mistakes you make. I think it's an interesting analogy for what's coming in healthcare. How will Leapfrog contribute in this new world? Well, I think Leapfrog's approach is ever more important in an era in which we're going to have conversations about quality with or without the facts. Leapfrog has a commitment to a data-based conversation about quality. There's a commitment to measurability, to fairness, transparency, comparability. Leapfrog brings an unbiased consumer perspective that gives it real credibility in these discussions. In short, I suspect Leapfrog will be a key ingredient in the growth of this consumer feedback loop that will transform healthcare, both in encouraging it to exist and in supporting its constructiveness in creating better outcomes. So, in a way, it was quite easy for me to say yes when Leah asked me to join the board. Although, I went to the first board meeting. We discussed study parameters, statistical significance, avoidance of conflicts, sample bias, selection bias, funding bias, biases I've never heard of. I'm still not really sure what they mean. This may be the dullest board meeting I have ever attended of any organization. I mean, Dave, a little gossip, something, please? I had to remind myself that good data plus transparency plus greater consumer empowerment is ultimately going to save lives. If not my own father's, then other people's fathers and mothers, spouses, and children. I understand that some of you may well disagree with what I'm saying tonight. You might believe that matters of life and death shouldn't be compared to entertainment or package delivery or tourism or sushi bars or chess. You may think that healthcare is just too complex to benefit from the reviews of untrained, unqualified patients masquerading as consumers. You may just think that I'm an idiot. It's okay. Really, it's okay. I deal with it all the time. In fact, you can go to gsn.com, go to the message boards, and find quite a few people who think that I'm an idiot on the homepage of my own company. I read our message boards every day, and I sometimes wish there was a Leapfrog in the entertainment and media business, maybe some objective way to evaluate CEOs. But sadly, we only deal with fake deaths and fake but dramatic life-saving moments. So I guess we're not important enough yet to have a Leapfrog. But as a patient, as a father, and as an employer, I'm very thankful to have Leapfrog in the world of healthcare. And I suspect more and more hospitals will be happy there's a Leapfrog, because they're entering a new era. To go back to that film I mentioned earlier, the end of that story is the studio spent a tremendous amount of money reworking the film. They did a new test screening. It did really well. They did another test screening. Now they're doing as many test screenings as they can, because they want Twitter and Facebook to be carrying words of how great this movie is going to be before it comes out. Because in movies, we're in an era that healthcare, I think, is going to enter. An era which, as my friend said, you can't hide the blemishes anymore. But if you have the goods, you want everyone to know about it. I want to congratulate my new colleagues on the board of Leapfrog for their 10 years of accomplishment. But I suspect our greatest contribution is yet to come. Thank you, and thanks for your support of this wonderful organization.